Hey, welcome to Northwest Exposure, a BMX podcast show. Tonight's guest, we're online. Oh, wait, I need to go click record on my other part too. So let's hit record there. Now we're recording.
Well, I see you.
You do you? Uh-oh. So now you see me and we're live and I'm recording. So again, I want to welcome you guys to Northwest Exposure, a BMX podcast show. I am live with Eric Filley, the classic one-handed gate start, Buckwheat, Mr. Clean. Gosh, man, you have so many nicknames, it's insane. But Buckwheat is here with me. He was known to me first as Buckwheat. Definitely, he was Buckwheat when I was just a wee lad. So, anyways, Eric, do you want to say how's it going to the Facebook crowd out there?
Well, hello, Facebook crowd. Glad to have you aboard.
Good. It looks like we're already getting some viewers in, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to turn you up just a little bit louder. So,
Adam, I had to turn off the Facebook Live because I was getting it deleted. I was actually able to see the live and hear you on the phone, and I couldn't
do it that way. If you mute if you want to watch it so that you can see what people are saying, you can mute your computer. Might work for you.
Yeah, well, I was doing it on my cell phone.
Oh yeah, don't do that. Let's keep the cell phone for cell phone talking usage. So, yeah, we're doing a little bit like we did last week with Daryl. When I did the one with Daryl last week, Daryl Young. So we're gonna go live for a little while. Eric did put it out there, and we got some questions and we got some things we'll chat about for a little bit live, and then we're gonna go into we'll get off live and then go into our normal show. And during this part, we'll talk a little bit about, like I said, about the questions that got popped up on Facebook for Eric and some for myself. I don't really. You guys don't need to hear from me. This is Eric's show. Or this is Eric's episode, if you will. So we'll go through some of those, and then once we're off Facebook Live, Eric, you're going to stay on with me, and then we're going to get further into the hows it's and the whys and the love of the sport and where it all came from you, Eric. So, yeah, we'll just start out with, how you been, Eric? Are you injury-free right now? That's always a question I have for you.
Well, at our age, are we ever actually injury-free?
Our age? Wait a second. Whoa. Our age, your age. Remember that.
Oh, touche. I'm still recovering from the broken femur.
Really?
The hip just does not want to flex, come up to much past 90 degrees. One of my goals is to try to touch my right knee to my chin. And the other day I came pretty close, about 2 inches from it. So I'm making progress. It's just slower than I'd like. Gotcha.
Well, I know how that goes. I know when I broke my collarbone and tore my scapula and fractured my scapula, it was like, wait, why is this taking so long? This sucks. So I feel you. Well, how's work going? Halo Electric, is that still going well for you?
Yeah. I've got one of my clients here who owns the arcade down in downtown Seaside, and they own quite a few restaurants in town, are also now building out a kitchen at Finn's Fish House.
Oh, nice.
On Broadway and Seaside. There's a little plug for you, Finn's.
Good.
So they're doing a new bar and kitchen area. It'll be some outside seating. So next time you're in Seaside, Oregon, you'll have to come check it out.
That's good. I don't know when you moved over to the coast, but I got to say, I've been going to the coast quite a bit down on the south side, going down to Crescent City, Brookings, Gold Beach, and man, if there was a BMX track on the coast, I would live on the coast. I love it out there. It's a wonderful place.
That's kind of how I got back into the racing. We'll talk about that probably later in the podcast.
Cool.
But the AJ Duryea had worked with. Do you remember AJ?
Oh, yeah. The cop of all cops, man. Astoria Police right there.
Well, in 2009, he put on an event out at the Astoria Fairgrounds.
Oh, that's
I'd been
right.
out of racing for, I think, about 7 years.
Yeah.
And saw a flyer in the local market on Highway 101 up here, you know, and we'll get more into that. But anyway,
Nice.
he's the one that kind of sparked my interest back into the sport.
Oh, that's rad. That's right. He's a good dude. I like that guy.
Yeah.
I like him. Well, well, good, man. I'm glad that you're doing well, and at least recovery is happening. I mean, that's really the key, is that it's happening. I know a lot of times people in the recovery mode just, if they want it really fast and it's not, they let that get them down. But as long as it's happening, that's the important part,
Well,
So,
my goal is to go to the Grands this year and triple. I want to win 20-inch cruiser and open.
hey, 31 and over open, bud. That's my class.
It's exactly what I'm doing.
Oh, good. I'm glad I inspired you a little bit. Glad. It's perfect.
Yes, you did.
Good.
You're the guy to beat right now.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just the guy. Well, let's get into some of these questions over here. I'm gonna roll on over here to my other computer. And it was kind of funny that Clapman, of all people, asked flats versus clips. I really just, not even gonna lie, I wanted to smack him upside the head and be like, do you not remember you being the kid that was like, I hate platforms. I never ride platforms. I never, ever ride platforms. They're stupid. We don't race on platforms. I just want to point that out, Josh. I love you, but you were that kid. So.
Well, I got to be honest. I struggle with this whole debate because right now,
it's a dumb debate.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead. Sorry, I'm being ornery.
If USA BMX allows clips or clipless shoes, pedals, then I think that's a tool that you can use.
Yep.
One of the things that you had mentioned is during your clinics. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you had mentioned that sometimes you'll require the kids to take their clips off and put on platforms.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there's nights where I'll do full clinics and just be like, no, it's platform only clinic night. So.
Well, one of the things I personally would struggle with that theory is my foot position is so much different when I'm clipped in versus when I'm running platforms.
See, now, mind you, ride. Yeah. You can't really go tell everybody that they ride similar to that because your feet are like on your heels and pointed out. So
it's completely different.
Yes.
But like when I get on platforms, I really have to struggle to get the front end up because I'm more in the middle of my foot, which then brings my body weight further forward.
Yeah.
So then what happens after I get used to riding platforms, I get on my clips and I'll loop out almost instantly.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. So that's, as far as platforms versus clipless pedals, if USA BMX said, hey, we're not going to allow them for amateurs anymore, I don't think you'd lose rider count. I don't think people would quit.
No, I don't think so either.
They'd complain.
Yeah.
But my theory on it is, if they did that, I'd still race, and I'd still try to be the dominant factor in my class.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like everybody else.
Yeah. So
it really drives me nuts when these people say, I'm flats for life or clips for life or this or that, because, I guess leaning on that to be your legacy, that you're clips for life or platforms for life, I think that's the wrong fight to fight.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. I think Daryl actually told me once, way back, that he figured out that he could go as fast as he could on clip pedals as he can on flat pedals, but he has to train about 3 or 4 times harder on flat pedals, but he could still do it. And it's just, I don't know, the clips versus flats debate is quite old, quite overdrawn. Gmo George Vic said keeping my kids on flats as long as possible, posted in the chat room. But yeah, of course, it's my view on clips is, if you don't know how to ride your bike yet, don't put them on. If winning is the only thing
100% agree with that.
If winning is the only thing that's important to you, this might not be the sport for you. And if you have to put clips on to win, then and that is the only thing that will keep you on your bike, then it might not work out for you. It just might not work out. I mean, it's, you know, it's just one of those things. It just might not work. So it's like, if you don't know how to jump, manual, corner, you know, balance on the gate, for God's sakes, you shouldn't be on clips. And that's that. I mean,
I have to agree.
Yeah, it's just.
I rode about 20 to 25 years on platforms. So
yeah,
I've definitely had my time on them.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. So, you know, and it's funny because I was one of the first people on clips, you know, up in Portland. Scott Daniels, Scott Daniels, good old dude from Rose City BMX. He showed up from a national on clips, and I was like, whoa, holy crap, he's going really fast. And I was like, well, I work at a bike shop. We have those literally at my bike shop. I had even a set for my road bike. And I was like, well, I'll put some on my BMX bike. I'll do that. I don't care. And I was small. I was skinny. I was scrawny. And I was like, I will take an advantage over people who aren't on clips yet. And I did. And it worked out for me. But I am like literally that person that was like, oh, I need to put clips on so I can go faster. I don't really recommend it, but it worked back then. But then again, I also started when I was 3 and I put them on when I was 15. So, you know, I had plenty of years knowing how to ride and jump and ride my bike all the time. But, you know, if you're a kid, and then the other thing too, and it's not even if you're a kid, it's like, and everybody knows this, that rides and races, like you need to put time in on your clips and you need to put time in on your flat pedals. It's just like, it's pretty simple. You need to do both. And, you know, if you want to get faster, do flat pedal sprints. If you want to ride better, ride on your flat pedals. If you want to get faster, ride flat pedals. I'll throw a perfect example. KJ Romero, I don't know if he was clipped in. Did you watch the video that KJ Romero posted?
No, I didn't.
Okay, you need to find it and watch it. It was of his.
I did. Was it?
It was his win from last weekend in Orlando, or Oldsmar. The dude's been running flat pedals like nonstop for like the last couple of years, and I think he might have been clipped in, but he blew his gate, was in dead last into the first corner, and a few things went his way. Some doors opened up, but he won, and he passed the dude for first in the last corner. The dude's bike handling skills went through the roof. Just because honestly, I mean, I'm sure he's training really hard and doing all that other stuff too, but putting forth all that training and all that time on the flat pedals and then putting clips on, it just blows people out of the water, and you just get way faster really fast. So anyways, I don't know, you got anything else you want to add to it? What's that?
I said, have we beat the dead horse yet?
Yep, I think we beat the dead horse. There we go. You know, so Burdette and Joel Moore kind of asked about the local scene and how to build it and how to keep people in it and keep it fun and exciting. And I'm going to sound a little bit like a jerk, but you kind of answered your own questions. You keep it fun and exciting. You have a fun announcer. You keep it exciting. You have fun with the kids. You make sure your track is good. I mean, I don't know. I've that question of trying to keep riders and stuff, it's pretty simple. I mean, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time, and people that, you know, can put forth that time and effort. And as long as you got a smile on your face and you act like you know what you're doing, people like it. So I don't know. I don't want to go too far into it, but I'm sure you got a few things you might want to add to it.
Well, I definitely think the indoor scene helps keep people involved.
In the Northwest, yes, it does.
One of the things I was thinking about before you called here tonight is, you know, if Eugene were to run an indoor again, as much as I hate to say not every weekend, if they did it every other weekend and did a Saturday night, Sunday morning where you could go stay in a motel or camp or do something. Yeah. It would leave opposite weekends for people to go to, you know, Mount Hood and go snowboarding or, you know, mow their lawn or do whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
Trust me, I would be there every weekend if they had it every weekend, but I think the moto count would go down.
Yeah, and it did. I mean, it showed that it did. It was a bummer, and I don't blame them for not running. And when they did quit, when they did quit, I was like, hey, I don't blame you guys. Like, I would have quit too. Like, you guys, they were getting no help. The rider count sucked. The tracks were great. The races were great. They were ran well. They were ran on time. But I don't know. I think I don't know. It was weird, but it definitely. I don't blame them for not doing it anymore. It's a huge money pit, and honestly, I think this will kind of lead into Steve Clark's Washington versus Oregon debate, and why Washington riders are so much better. And I'll be the first to admit that I started going to Washington specifically to get better because they were better up there. And
I'm trying to figure out what that means. Who's better? What do you mean by that?
Well, Washington.
I can't wait to hear this.
I know Washington has. I mean, they've put forth way more nag superstar, world champion riders than Oregon has, and I kind of hit on it a little bit with Arch. I think it has something to do with how Oregon people view sport, view life compared to how Washington people view sport and view life. I think we're a little bit more laid back in Oregon and a little bit more easygoing and a lot less competitive than Washington people are. And honestly, I think it really chalks up to that because, there's obviously always the handful of the bunch, but, Washington riders have generally been better. And, the total points thing definitely, I think was a huge help, to growing their program and all that kind of stuff. I think total points was huge on their part, keeping that stuff going. So, but getting back to where my initial point was, is that, I mean, it'd be nice if we had the indoor, and I think it would help, but I don't know. It's hard to say because it didn't always seem to help. Unfortunately, it definitely died.
It does seem like their racing program is better.
Yeah, and I think that had a lot to do with Money Mike, good Mike Reich, being so consistent in their programs up there, and he was, on the mic all the time. He was the face. He was running 3 tracks at a time at one point, and I think it just, I think it had a lot to do with him and creating that atmosphere and whatnot. So, I got to hand it to Money Mike for sure.
So did we answer the question?
The question was, why? Well, we answered Clark's question, I think. I don't think you want to answer Clark's question, but
I can't see it. I'm not sure.
Oh, well, Clark's question was just Washington versus Oregon. Why is Washington better?
No, they're not.
Well,
you agreed with them, so maybe in the 35 to 40-year-old class they are.
Well, I know. Yeah, I know when I was, 17, 16, we started losing a lot of guys, and, I had to go up north because those guys were still racing and those guys were still going hard. And
you definitely get a bigger class up there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and a deep class. And it was like, you go up there and be like, well, I hope I make the main today. So, but then the other part of, is rider retention question, basically. And,
if you can recall, Adam,
yeah,
I think it's still the same today. Is if you get a district number 1 the previous year, do you get to ride single point races in the state of Oregon for free? Still honor that?
Yeah, for the most part. I know we do down here. I think we only honor Oregon 2 riders. So, like, if an Oregon 1 rider came down, sorry, but I think that we only honor Oregon 2 riders. But, yeah, I think it still goes on. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that, I imagine you would, you've seen the same thing, is in the past, what I saw was a lot of parents, so many times, more than not, people race their butts off all year long to get that district number 1 title, so they could race the following year for free, and you know, it's a title.
Yeah.
But then they'd never show back up. All of a sudden they were lost.
Yeah. Burnout.
And one of the things I noticed is the kids got burnt out because the parents were pushing so hard.
Yep.
And I think the retention part is finding out why you're in it. Why are you out there racing?
Yep.
For me, I love to ride the track.
Yeah.
The racing secondary to just being out there. And you'll notice that when we get out to a race, you know, when you show up at the races and I'm there, I don't stop.
No, you don't.
From the moment I show up to the moment they kick me off the track,
yep.
the races start. I can't imagine anybody loves the sport as much as I do, or at least loves riding a groomed track as much as I do. I just can't even imagine it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is it that has kept me in the sport? Now, I've left a couple times. One time like 7 years or whatnot. But I think the thing that I keep coming back to is I just love it. I love being out there with the families.
Yeah.
All these people, all our BMX families are my family. And, you know, when I just went to Hawaii, instead of staying in a hotel, I went over to the Honolulu, to Oahu, and met these people on Facebook that said, hey, we're looking for a place to stay. They put us up for 2 days. What a blast we had.
Yeah.
Felicity, Danica, and oh gosh darn it, I'm drawing a blank, and I just fell in love with this little part. It'll come to me in a minute, so we'll just keep moving on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and you know, when myself and everybody else that ran Salem, and we all ran it, I'll say that my inspirations to running that track were Scott Snook and Mike Reich, a guy named Art Brown that used to run Rose City at one point, and my mom, of course, my mother. And I took pieces of all of them and like tried to become that one track operator. And a lot of it really had to do with, we ran total points. Mind you, a certain individual boycotted our track for a year and a half and tried to get all of his friends to boycott that track. And because we ran total points, but we ran total points, which came from Washington, for every single point race. Didn't matter, weekend, weekday, we ran total points all the time. And I think everybody knows the reasons that our total points can be better than a transfer system at a local race. But then we ran the races efficiently, quickly during motos. Main time came, and I announced every single kid on the gate, their sponsor, made sure I made that main event like a show while I was announcing. And then our track, I was a student at the time in college, so I had a lot of time to put forth to making the track really well groomed. We got there 2 hours early every race, made sure it was perfect and smooth. The gates were dropping immediately at the opening of registration, and it succeeds. I mean, it just does. It creates a good atmosphere. Dan Loudermilk and Mike Slippy started our Tuesday night potlucks, which were a huge success. I love Mike Slippy's Jamaican jerk chicken. Still do. It's still delicious. But you know, it was a big team effort from everybody. But you know, I'm going to sound a little bit like a jerk, but just if you're a track operator or you're part of a track, just don't suck. I mean, it's, you know, just do your best, and people will recognize it. And those that don't want to give you thank yous, that's okay. You don't need a thank you for everything. You don't need kudos for everything. Just don't suck and do your best. That's a Ben Beanism right there, Zach. Don't suck. He used to tell Zach and I that before every race. Don't suck. So, but you know, and the other thing too, and this goes for all those Portland people, when we made sure that our track was 100% groomed, fully beautiful, like ran the races like it was a show every single time. I was working for ABA at the time, building the Nationals, announcing at the Nationals, and doing all that stuff. It created a little bit of unfortunately, it's sometimes tension, but it created a little bit of a competition. So all of a sudden, Malala started picking up on how well their track was groomed and how nice it was. Same thing with Newburgh. Newburgh started doing the same thing. And then all of a sudden we had 3 great tracks that everybody wanted to go race. And everybody kept traveling to and going to and all that kind of stuff. So it, you know, in all, we kind of helped everybody by, you know, kind of setting a bar, setting an example or whatever, but then everybody jumped on and everybody stepped up their bars. And that's really where it kind of can start as far as the tracks up there and that kind of thing. So anyways, see, and this is why I didn't want to answer these questions, because I've got too much to say. I just
wanted to put Brody. Brody was the young man's name.
Brody, okay, good. See, yeah. This is why, yeah, I don't shut up about this stuff, and I just need to. So I'm done with that. You got anything else you want to add to that?
I don't even remember what the question was.
Oh, rider retention.
How to retain riders?
Yeah, basically.
You remember why you're there.
Yeah. Let's see. We'll go down. We'll scroll down. Jason Forsman, your personal bodyguard. Yeah, that's right. That's a pretty good question for both of us. What are your biggest fears, if any, that you have in the gate or while racing? Eric Filley's fear is to not break a bone.
I'll let you go first. I really need to think that one through a little bit.
Okay. So I don't have fears anymore. And this is kind of why I wanted to answer this question. I don't have fears anymore. I don't have any fear of losing. I don't have any fear of winning. Mind you, that is a huge key. A lot of riders, a lot of kids are afraid to win. Also afraid to lose, yes, but they're also afraid to win. And, you know, I started looking at people's little comments over there, but, yeah, you know, today, yeah, I don't have any fears while I'm in the gate. While I was in a pro or amateur, so as an amateur, I began to be afraid of factory people. Factory dogs. Being an Oregon person, we didn't get many factory rides out here, and definitely the factory kids threw me for a loop when I jump in the gate. I'd always make mains. I'd get in the gate. I'd be the only unfactory rider, and this is during an era where, like, you know, we had 2 dudes on Powerlight, or well, usually one dude on Powerlight, 3 dudes on GT, a dude on Robinson, and a guy on Elf, and everybody was in the main. And then I was in the main riding for, you know, Hurtis Hot Shots or RNC. And it freaked me out. And it took a long time to work through that. But it is something that I worked through into my pro years and in my later years of amateur as well a little bit. But as far as how to work through that, it's just realizing that they're just people. And they're just people on bikes, kids on bikes. We're all just kids on bikes. So, and then, you know, now, like I said, I don't have any fears. And part of it is knowing that every time I get on the gate could be the last time I get on the gate, which I'm also not afraid of. It's just, I'm okay with that risk that we take as BMXers, and I became okay with that a long time ago. But yeah, you know, just being like, yeah, whatever happens, happens, and I'm ready to live with it. So I think that helps, especially being an older amateur, you know, not having that fear of what could happen or not having that fear of winning. So that's me. What about you, Mr. Filley?
I think there's 2 things. Number one is becoming irrelevant, whether that's just on the starting gate or not having the respect of the riders. I think just being grown men, we're always going to have some kind of respect as long as we're respectful of the younger riders and the parents. Yeah. But the teenagers, those are the ones that are the hardest to connect with for most people.
Oh, yeah.
I suspect for you, as it is for me right now in life, it's one of the easiest things when they're on a bike.
Yeah.
When we show up to a bike park or anywhere, and these people don't know us, they don't know we're BMXers, they don't know anything about us, but once we just ride a little bit, they realize that we can control a bike. Whether we're really phenomenal or not is different, but we're out there with them.
Yeah, yeah.
And when those teenage kids are out there and they're being punks at first. You know, I've dealt with this quite a bit.
Yep.
You know, and they're cussing and just acting like, pinheads. And you ride around a little bit, and then you respectfully go to them and talk to them about how they're a role model for all the other kids there.
Yeah.
And while they're at it, you got to put a helmet on because you've got one on the bike park, And that's one of the coolest things about being in the position that you and I are in right now, is we still are relevant, even in the scene that isn't BMX. In pretty much any bicycle discipline, we could make an impact.
Yeah.
The other thing is,
so that's what you're afraid of, is not being in.
Wherever Ron is.
So that's what you're afraid of, is not being impactful to kids on bikes. Is that kind of where you're going with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess my number one fear, whether I'm in the gate or anywhere, is just becoming irrelevant and not having impact and being able to influence kids that are starting to become misguided, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. So what was your other one?
And then the other one is not being in either lane 1 or 8, wherever Ron's at, running the gate, so I can't reach out and untie a shoe before my motor dropped. Before the gate stopped.
Oh, nice. Well, I'll go with that a little bit on that lane 1 or lane 8. It was kind of funny. I had lane 8 in Phoenix, and I think I had 6 or 7 on Sunday. But anyways, that's another thing too, is you just can't be afraid of that stuff. You have to embrace it, really. Like, you got to embrace lane 8. When I get lane 8, I'm that jerk that, like, yells kind of loudly, like, woohoo, coming out of 8, coming on over. I'm pretty pumped now. So, yeah, it's kind of funny. It's just one more thing. You just can't be fearful of that stuff. And whatever it might be on your own personal level, and how to get over fears is your thing. But
that's to the challenge.
Yeah.
I think that's when we race pro-ams, let's say. I don't race my cruiser, because if I do beat these guys, I want to do it on the same bike. I want to have that bragging right inside that, okay, there's no excuses.
Yeah.
I beat you, not because I was on a 24, because I was clipped in or this, that. Today I was better on my bike than you.
Yep.
I'm not going to say it to them, but that's how I'm going to feel on the bike.
Exactly.
Just know that. Just know that for the next Ramsden Open.
Exactly. One thing for it's funny.
Slip that in, you let it go.
Yep. When teenagers and whatnot get to that point where they, if we're doing pro-ams and stuff, and they do beat me, and they are either A, pumped about it, or B, and this goes even back to when, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I was, getting in my younger 30s and late 20s, and they beat me or whatever it might be. It was kind of sad. I was kind of like, well, you should be beating me. Like, you should be faster than me. I'm 28 years old. I'm 27 years old. You're 15. You're 16. You should be beating me. And so that for all you younger 15, 16-year-olds and stuff, like, you should be winning. And I'm proud of them when they do. And I think that kind of helps a lot when they have those races and, they do win or whatever. And you just say, hey, you should be. That's where you should be. And it helps me as a rider who's aging to be more okay with it, and understand it's a good opportunity for them to have, in this instance, say, beat me. So, yeah.
It totally sucks coming to realize that some of these kids that were little, pretty much babies when we were racing, are now beating us. I just came to the conclusion about a half hour ago that I probably will never beat Josh Benuelos again.
No, I know, right?
Remember, it's just a half hour ago.
Yep. I know it. It's kind of funny. It is kind of funny. So, moving on, I got a good question from Brandon Bano, and he says, one thing I'd like to hear talked about is training methods from back in the day to now, and how everyone is being convinced you need to train like you are going to the Olympics rather than just riding your bike. And also these guys turning pro to say they are pro, then wait to reclass. That last part, that's been going on for years. Nah, it just goes on for years, and it's not their fault. I never really blame those people. I only see that there's a need for that 17, 18-year-old kid to have something better than what their local program has, and sometimes that's turning pro to be able to say you were a pro one day. So I'm okay with it. But
well, a lot of times what would happen, you heard Lovegrove talk about it during his podcast, was, you know, when there's a group of guys that are near the same age, they start turning pro, all of a sudden, gosh, you can have an 8-man gate out of nowhere. And there's a value to that.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Because people get jazzed. Are they doing it for their own, you know, to give themselves credit, you know, hey, I'm a pro, to highlight themselves? Maybe some of them are. Probably most of them. I know that I took a lot of pride in calling myself a pro, you know, a long time ago, and even when I signed back up.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think it's actually pretty cool that they do it. But then what happens is, and we've seen this time and time again, is we'll either lose them, or they just realize that maybe they weren't at the caliber that they thought they should be.
Yep.
You know, or the local racing scene dies out. Now the only place they have to race is the national scene.
Yeah.
Which is really difficult, especially living in the Northwest.
It is. It is. A funny comment from Zach Bean on here was, Adam wasn't too happy the first time I beat him, and I wasn't. But see, I was 20 years old.
We're happy the first time that little punk beat us.
I know, right?
That kid he's a phenom. I mean, that's one of the best races I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And he's going to be...
I dread the day that he comes back and races a 31 and over.
Oh, I can't wait to beat him.
First, and then I get second and you get third. That would totally suck.
No, I win. But no, when Zach beat me, the very first time he ever beat me was they did a Mountain Dew, like, Dew Tour, like, qualifier race to go ride skate park in the Dew Tour, which was, or maybe it was X Games. I can't remember. Maybe it was X Games as an amateur type of thing. And I was so pissed. Like, he beat me on that very day. I was 20, he was 15, and I was like, this was my race. Like, and yeah, I shouldn't have had a girlfriend at the time. That was probably part of the problem. But good times nonetheless. But on to Brandon's beginning of his question. You know, you want to start out with that one? It was the
I even thought about that a little bit earlier today.
Yeah.
And I would tell Brandon, basically, you're kind of going to get, and I can't see the question, so I can't refer back to it, but I want to say, basically, you're going to get out what you put in.
Yeah.
If you want to race locally, you don't have to train like an Olympian. But if you want to go to the national scene and race, I mean, the guys I'm racing, if I want to win, I have to train. Now, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. My good looks can't just put me in first place.
No.
They'll put me in first place in stage, but not on gate and from track.
Yep. Yeah, no, I feel like kind of the same way with that. Because, you know, I don't know, somebody was giving me a little bit of flack saying that I train harder now than I did as a vet. And I agree.
Do you?
What's that?
Do you?
My last 2 years in vet, yes. My last 2 years in vet, I didn't do squat. I was like, whatever. I was so fed up with getting third place and second place to Javi and Matt. I was just, it didn't matter. And I had hurt myself at one point, so it was just getting obnoxious. But it was funny because then I could still not train whatsoever, and I might have been, you know, 6th or whatever in the first corner, but I'd still end up in the same place that I was when I was training my butt off and still getting those thirds and fourths, which was pretty funny. But so yeah, I mean, I train probably as hard now as I did when I first turned vet in my first 3 years of vet, and whatnot. And I just like training. I love it. I enjoy it. It's fun. It makes me stay feeling young, keeps me pain-free.
I saw on your Facebook page you're even training cycling classes.
Yeah, I started doing spin classes, teaching spin classes, and heading that up. I actually had my first one last night of my very own class, and then gonna be, you know, every Monday and Wednesday night. So I just love it.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. Thank
now,
you.
see, here I am talking all this trash because I'm excited because I've gone to spin class 3 times a week and starting to do a little gym work, and here you are already topping me there. So I might have to wait here.
There you go. There you go. But, to answer Brandon's question, the way I see it is that our sport has changed. And that's that. It's still our sport. I still love it. But our sport has changed. Now, yeah, I didn't train a lick until I was probably like 18. I might have done long bike rides and been like, hey, let's see how fast we can pedal up this hill. But it wasn't training by any means or anything like that. And, we'd all dirt jump. We all ride together. And we'd ride every day. And in a sense, that was training. But we didn't call it that. We didn't know it was that. But, yeah, we didn't train. But, that's just what our sport is now. It's a sport where if you want to be even competitive at a state level, as far as like state championship races and that kind of thing, you got to put forth some effort. Everybody else is, and it's just what it is. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. It's just kind of what our sport has evolved into. And, there's still ways to do it if you're riding your bike only, but it takes a lot of riding your bike. And if you want to do it.
One of the other things you had touched on with Arch is sprints. Sprints. To be honest, I don't think I've ever done sprints. However, I was thinking about this the other day on my way to work.
Mm-hmm.
I never did like the box sprints, but I'll tell you, every chance I got on the highway or on the on the roads at the stoplights when I used to live in Portland, when I lived in Portland during my A-Pro, my A-Pro years,
mm-hmm.
I'd always be out on my bike, and I'd stop at the red light and race the cars across the intersection as far as I could so they pass me. And if you think about it, that's exactly what this is about.
Yeah.
But I turned it into something fun, because if it's not fun, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I guess it's just part of, it's just kind of where we've evolved into. And I don't know. Don't know what else to say about that one. Let's go. Let's see. Are we
boring the heck out of people, do you figure?
I don't know. Maybe. That's okay. I'm having fun boring people. Let's see. We need to go to your page really quick. This was kind of funny. Kyle Miller says, do you ever age? And Kyle, you're very correct. I still see Eric as the same person he was when I was 13, and we all lined up on the triple, and he jumped over us out at Rose City, and he's still the same dude, still the same kid.
We had a banquet that year,
Yeah.
and the Gerards, the track operators, gave me they presented me with a T-shirt.
I remember it. I was there.
A photograph.
I
still have that T-shirt in my drawer.
That's awesome that you still have that T-shirt.
It's pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was fun.
I think there was like 32 kids lined up side by side, tight, side by side on those triples.
Yep. I was one of them. I was on that triple. But yeah, it is kind of funny. Definitely, you definitely got struck by the fountain of youth bug. I think BMX in itself is a fountain of youth. So,
I have to agree with that. As far as the fountain of youth, my body does not feel like a fountain of youth.
Well,
it feels more like a bag of bolts.
I did find it pretty funny that I found a photo of you. Well, I actually didn't find it. Billy Lundquist found it and posted it literally just in time for this, of you being called out by the ABA at the time, saying, yeah, he's all fast and smooth and stylish until he wrecks and he blows up like a freaking cannonball. And I was like, yep, that's about right.
You and Matt Lovegrove are in for it. Because I listened to that podcast.
Oh, man. Well, it's okay. I'll give you some redemption time a little bit later.
Well, I will say to that, this sucks falling.
It does. It does.
I do it quite a bit, but I think my fall to ride time ratio is probably on point. I just ride so much more than anybody else.
This is true.
My guns on there.
You do ride a lot. This is true. Well, at least
okay.
Paul Ritchie said he's not bored, so that's helpful. Jason Ondell said, you will never live it down. And, Yeah. Oh, I see. So Frank Nuzio put, asking about the crazy one-handed gate start, and I will give you an opportunity on live air to make any kind of remark you want to about your one-handed gate starts.
You're giving me an opportunity?
Yeah, yeah.
What's the question?
Why?
Why
did you do them? Where did you come up with the idea?
Okay, here it comes. Well, Greg Romero actually pulled me aside when I was in Vegas in 2015. I think his last national I actually really raced.
Yeah.
Before I broke my femur.
Gotcha.
And he said, Philly, you got to tell me, why did you do the one-hand starts? I figured it was just because you wanted to get in everybody's heads. And because I'd line up in A Pro and even in Double A with one arm in the air while the cadence going. It all started in Greeley, Colorado. It was the gate just, and back then it wasn't random starts. So it was, this is in 1992, mind you, well before most of our racers listening probably have ever even thought about being conceived, right?
Yeah, right.
So I'm on the gate, and I keep almost flipping the gate every time I drop in practice because it was so slow. I even tried sitting down, counting. I tried all kinds of stuff, and it wasn't working. Finally, just out of the blue, I thought, I'm going to put my hand in the air and try this. So, and they were timed gates. So, it was, and you'll notice, riders ready, watch the gate, boom. Riders ready, watch the gate, boom.
Yep.
I don't think I'll ever forget that timing, right? And
yep.
It's just embedded in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
So, on that gate, it was riders ready, watch the light, so watch the gate, boom. It was so slow.
Oh, yeah.
So, finally, I put my hand in the air, waited until I heard the word gate, put my hand on the grip, then started to come forward. It was the perfect gate. I mean, and it kept happening. So that whole weekend, I did these one-handed gate starts. And then then at the next race, I couldn't pull it back because everybody's like, yeah, you're going to do this one-handed gate start? And, I don't take this seriously. It's a hobby. It always was a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
So, sure. And it just kept working. And even at the local races, I don't know if I ever did it at national, but because of that timing, I would actually hold my seat and stand behind the bike, not even attached to it other than my fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I heard the gate cadence, I'd just take off, jump, land on my bike, and snap the gate, and I would still beat probably 99% of people at the gate.
Yeah.
Because it was all timed. There was really no science behind it.
No. Well, I'll kind of build on that because I know you well enough, and I've even helped you with your gates in the past at some clinics and stuff. And
I will add, I want to add that I have passed on your word quite a bit to a lot of kids about the breathing technique.
Oh,
that's
good.
The one thing, Adam, of all things I've ever seen or had been given about BMX, that's the best piece of advice I've ever had. Whether I use it properly or not, I don't know, but it's the best advice I've ever had.
Oh, good, good. Well, and knowing you well enough, and I'm sure it worked really well because your mind goes a million miles a minute, and your body reacts to that. And if your mind is like thinking, okay, I gotta go and watch, you're gonna go on like Riders Ready and be like, oh, didn't I try to go and watch? And and so I'm sure it actually helped you a ton just because it took your mind off having to get a good gate, took your mind off your timing and trying to go on watch, because that's when we used to go on was Riders Ready, watch.
Everything. It puts it all into the breathing technique.
Yep.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because this is what I've been doing and it's working, is exhale all my air on the word gate and slowly inhale until I hear until it's time to go. Whether it's the first beep, second beep, red light, green light, whatever.
Yep. Yep. It was kind of funny.
That has really helped me tremendously, unless I forget.
Yeah.
And then I hit the gate.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, the way I came up with that was the old cadence. I had a breathing technique, and I learned it from starting to work out and train, and I realized that like if you're doing squats, you're doing bench press, you need to breathe out and in a controlled manner to get the most out of your body. And it was funny. I was like, well, we should be doing this on the gate. So I had a breathing technique for the old cadence, And then once the new cadence came out, it took me a little bit of time, but I was like, I think I could figure this out, and figured out a good timing method and a way to, you know, time your breathing properly so that, you know, you can, you know, make sure that you're not holding your breath, that you're not trying to breathe in while all of a sudden you need to breathe out, and all that kind of stuff. And it helps take your mind off getting a good gait, because I think that's still to this day everybody's not everybody, sorry, a lot of people that are learning gaits, their problem is trying to get a good gait, and you just can't try to. You just have to practice it and then make it happen when it's time for it to happen. So,
well, Adam, I'd say 99% of people are still stuck with trying to get that perfect gait.
Yeah, exactly.
When in all actuality, it's a split second through a 30-second rate.
Yeah.
Or a 35-second rate.
Yep.
However, it does help mentally when you snap out of the gate. When somebody else out-snaps me out of the gate, it gets in my head, because now I'm seeing them in my peripheral.
Yep.
And I'm thinking about them instead of thinking about the first jump or the first turn.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
you
definitely.
Didn't hear that.
Yeah, don't tell your competitors that. What the hell are you thinking? What are you thinking? So, let's see. I think that was pretty much it for any questions. I'll kind of scroll through the Facebook Live feed, see if there's anything I wanted to bring up. Oh, you know, Mike Dahlberg texted me some questions that I'll look at my phone again really quick, and I think we kind of hit on them a little bit. But there is one thing I wanted to, my computer's not working fast enough to scroll up really well. But I'll hit on it a little bit just because I like you, Mike. I didn't say I love you. I just like you a little bit. One of the questions he had was, let's see, talk a little bit about new track operators in the sport, such as how to learn the history of a new track, or sorry, how to learn the history as a new track operator, and how to learn about old track operators and what they did good. As far as like learning how to be a good track operator and...
Hey, Adam.
Yeah.
Adam.
Mm-hmm.
While you're answering this, I'd like to use this moment to go to the bathroom.
Didn't you? I told you to go to the bathroom before we started this, and now you have to go again?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Eric Filley is in the bathroom, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to know where he went to the bathroom. He is one of the biggest children I've ever met. So, so Mike, I guess I was going to let Eric answer this with me because his dad was one of the best track operators Oregon has ever seen. So, but he had to go potty. As far as that stuff goes, Mike, I would say one of your biggest things is you can't run a track completely diplomatically and democratically. You just can't. You're not going to make everybody happy. And you're not gonna you're just not gonna make everybody happy. And what you just need to focus on is running a progressive and strong show every single time out there. You do have the gift of gab on the mic. I think you could use it a little bit more frequently, and maybe you do now. Maybe you've gotten a little bit more comfortable in that situation, in that scenario, but yeah, you know, it's just, you can't please everybody. And once you decide that you can't please everybody as being a track operator, then I think you start to begin to succeed as a track operator. And as long as you're consistent with what your rulings are, how you run your race, and all that kind of stuff, as long as it's consistent and fair, I think, you know, even the people that don't want to like you, and trust me, there were people that didn't want to like me while I was a track operator, but they were still out there, and we still had great turnouts, and we still had huge state finals, and we still ran a great show. And, you know, all that's important. As far as like trying to find out history and whatnot on good track operators, it's kind of funny. I brought it up to one of the track operators down here, and it's kind of tough because once, like, you've got these volunteers that like dedicate their lives to the sport for that amount of time or however long they're in it, and then they're like kind of forgotten about. And one thing I think that, and I got kind of the idea from Eugene, is Eugene still, Emerald Valley, still has plaques of Butch, Scott, some of the other Kathy Tuttle and stuff like that on their wall, because they were huge, intricate parts of that facility, of that track and that growth. And I really think that tracks doing that is super important. And I kind of helped give the idea to one of the tracks down here, and now they've got pictures of their board members up. And, you know, and I think if you have that, it kind of starts to help build a love for it and a love for the people that are volunteering week in and week out, and keeping those people involved as well, because it's showing that they are really being appreciated, even if they're not getting a thank you every single time they're out of the track. So as far as, like, you know, past track operators, the great ones out of the Northwest, I would definitely say, are Eric's dad, Butch. There was a guy named Art Brown that was track operator for a little while at Rose City BMX. And there was even more recently, he ran Grants Pass. He's going to kill me for forgetting his name. Godwin. Russ Godwin. He was a really good track operator. And of course,
you know, another one that put in all kinds of time, Dave Bastion.
Yeah, he definitely did. He definitely put his heart and soul into it, Dave Bastion. But like my mom was, you know, huge. But then Mike Reich. I don't think my mom ever had track operator position. She was always kind of secretary, treasurer, president, all those type of things. But Mike Reich, I mean, in all honesty, he's probably one of the best track operators I've ever spoken to, and talked to, and that kind of thing. So as far as learning about them, yeah, it's tough, man. You got to find the right people and ask some questions. I mean, you know, I don't know.
One other tip, Adam, was you know, PI is a profit track, correct?
Yeah.
So when Rice was running that, there could be some difference between a profit and a non-profit track, because
yeah,
you know, I'm not knocking one or the other. I think running a non-profit would be much more difficult.
Yeah, it is.
So I guess the reason I'm saying that is because of whether it's marketing dollars or whatever it is. You know, it's tough to get people to volunteer. It's tough to get people to volunteer.
It is.
It is. About that.
It is very tough to get people to volunteer. And, you know, like, for instance, right now here in Medford, the track I help with, Rogue Valley BMX, you know, we've got a really good core group of volunteer board members, and we do really, really well with it. And, you know, between the 5 of us, we can run the show. And we don't necessarily always need volunteers. They're, of course, very welcome, very helpful, and, you know, it really helps take some of the load off our backs. But, you know, relying only on volunteers, that can put a bad taste in volunteers' mouths or the crowd. If you every single day are, you know, griping about not having enough volunteers, well, guess what? You're not going to get volunteers. If you show that you don't necessarily need volunteers, and you show that you are a strong individual as a track operator, and that you would enjoy having more people to help you, but you don't need it necessarily, you're going to get more volunteers, because they're going to want to be part of something successful. They're going to want to be part of something strong and part of something fun, rather than being like, we're never going to race if somebody doesn't volunteer, and, you know, and freaking out about stuff. It just kind of starts to turn into a negative aspect instead of a positive. So I think, you know, as far as that part goes too, Mike, just show you know what you're doing, bud. Show it. So hopefully that'll help you, Mike. I don't know, maybe if you're even still listening. I mean, we've already gone an hour into the live show. So hope you, I know I have another rock star energy to keep me awake, Eric. Hopefully you do too.
Well, I just take pee breaks.
Yeah, pee breaks. Big bald head, but no bladder.
There you go.
Well, good. Well, I will say I have my, obviously, if you might have noticed, there's a little bit of upright clothing company around me tonight. I want to thank tonight's sponsor, Upright Clothing Company, and give a huge shout out to Jim Kinsey and the Upright crew. I was like, hey, what would you think about, being a sponsor for tonight's show? And he was down. So really cool that, he's down with that and jumped in, and he's tonight's sponsor. And, a little bit more about Upright Clothing is that it's cool because it's an Oregon brand. So Northwest style right there. And, but, Jim is just one of the best dudes I've ever met. His daughter was on my team for a while. Still very close family friend type of thing. And I love that he's still doing stuff with Upright and still, committed to making some clothing, committed to being a part of BMX. And if you are a Northwest BMXer or beyond, and you love the sport, Upright Clothing Company, Northwest style, you got to have some. So, well, is there anything else you wanted to add? Any more questions from anybody? If you want to chime in, this is your last chance to chime in on the Facebook Live feed, because then we're going to go off Facebook Live and we're going to jump into the serious stuff with Eric Filley.
Well, I guess ultimately, just remember while you're out there, enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Enjoy every minute you're out on the track. I do, and the road trips are where it's at. Where you're just going with the best friend who is also your fiercest competition to the next track, or riding together or whatever. Just enjoy it.
Yep.
Don't get so caught up in chasing points or chasing nag titles or this or that. Some people will, and that's good for them. But most it's not. Most it's just enjoy what you're doing. And if you like winning, you're gonna have to train a little bit harder than the next guy.
Yep.
That's just all there is to it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
Sorry, excuse me.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna agree with you. Is it, if winning is the only thing that's important to you, you got to train your ass off, and that's that. I mean,
bottom, we're G-rated.
Yeah. Yep. G-rated. Train your bottom off. If you,
there you go.
If you are, and this is, well, I'll give one piece of advice out there to parents. If your kid wants to win more than anything, guide them. Don't push them, guide them. If your kid,
I like it. Very well put.
If your kid doesn't care that much about winning, be their friend, be their confidant, be there for them. Don't push them. Don't try to get something out of them that's not necessarily there. It will come if it's going to be natural to them, and it will come naturally. If they are okay with getting second, third, fourth, and they have a smile on their face still, and they have tons of fun out at the track, be there for them. Be their dad, be their mom, be their cheering crowd, be their cheerleader. That's it. I think that's really huge with parents, is that they think, or that maybe there is a spark in there that could go really far in the sport, but they think that because it's there, they need to push that. And that stuff's got to come natural. It's just, if you do push it and something happens, it's not going to be substantial, and it's not going to be long lasting, and it's not going to mean that much to them when they grow up.
Adam, that was deep and so very true. I'm really impressed. Very well said, sir.
Good. Well, cool.
One last thing. If your child, one of the neatest things my father ever told me, it was so impactful, and I've told quite a few people this, but I'd love to share it right now.
Okay.
Is if I loaded up on the gate, or if I looked at my moto sheet and I was really struggling, and mind you, I'm 10. I'm racing Jeff Schofield, Brad Moore, Michael Thomas, and John Lindbergh. These are all guys that I raced the Northwest, other than Jeff Schofield, who I never ever beat.
Ooh.
He's that kid, little Mr. Awesome, Factory GT. Anyway, a little history there.
Yeah.
Or if I'm racing an older group of guys, and I'd get really down on myself. And my father, the neatest thing he'd say to me is, "Son, I'd never bet against you." That was so impactful.
That's awesome.
Growing up and having that reassurance that he believed in me. And man, parents, if you just heard that, try it sometime.
Yeah.
It's one of the most impactful things a child could hear.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, because that does stem from, you know, if the child feels like they're going to disappoint the parent in any way, shape, or form while they're out there trying to race, they're not going to enjoy it and they're not going to stick with it. So good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Facebook world, I appreciate you guys for listening. I don't know, got like 80 comments on here. I don't know. Oh, there's where I got 25 people still listening. So that's kind of cool. But we will continue recording with Eric, and we're going to go dive in to the longer version of the podcast. I might split these two podcasts up, do a Facebook Live that I'll post on its own, and then we'll do the other one separately, so you don't have to listen to the whole thing at once and feel overwhelmed. Because I know a couple people were like, oh, it's 3 hours long. It's like, well, you don't have to listen to it all at once, so that's okay. So anyways, good night, Facebook world. Thank you again to Upright Clothing Company, and we'll see you next time. Peace. You want to say bye, Eric?
Bye.